Hey guys, it's Chloe. Welcome back, or welcome to my channel. Today on my Tacoma, I'm going to be installing the pop and lock. And if you don't know what the pop and lock is, it's basically a remote locking and unlocking system for your tailgate that basically allows you to unlock and lock your tailgate with your key fob. Now, as far as I'm aware, for the Tacoma, you can't get from the factory a remote locking and unlocking system from the tailgate, but you can get it added on at the dealership. But it's actually really easy to do at home, so I'm going to show you guys from start to finish the entire install of this pop and lock, talk about why I went with pop and lock, and of course show you all the features. So let's get into the video. So with this pop and lock, I can unlock my tailgate with my key fob. So as you can see, my tailgate is locked right now, and if I unlock my truck, my tailgate also unlocks. Now, one thing that's also cool, and I don't know if it's just specific to this pop and lock system, I don't know if it's the same across all remote locking tailgate systems, is that you can still use the manual key to lock and unlock your tailgate. So you're not losing any functionality here or really changing any functionality, you're just adding on to something, which is nice. So my manual key still works regardless of the pop and lock, and I can still use the pop and lock, put it in any position I want really, and it won't affect how the manual key works. I really want to show you guys how the pop and lock mechanism actually works, and I want to show you it live with my key so that you can see it in action. It's really cool, and I'm just really fascinated with these kind of mechanisms. So I have my tailgate cover open. It's over there. It's pretty easy to open. It's just 16 bolts. This metal piece right here is part of the factory system, and it's actually what actuates the locking and unlocking of the tailgate. And this plastic lever or arm right here is actually part of the pop and lock mechanism. So basically, as you'll see, the pop and lock has a servo that allows the arm to push itself back and forth to manually lock and unlock. So if I take my keys and press the lock button, that actuates the servo in the pop and lock, which is actually wired into the truck, and I have more instructions in the install portion of this video, but that basically causes the arm to push the lock into its lock position. So I think this is really cool, but to be honest with you guys, I was a little worried at first that this arm that pop and lock has was made out of plastic because I was afraid it was going to wear out over time. But as you can see, this little pin that it pushes on the OEM setup is also plastic, so I don't really see it wearing down over time too much, and I think it's going to be completely fine. So here's everything that came in the pop and lock box, including the tools you'll need. In the box, it first comes with the actual power locking assembly that goes inside the tailgate. We also have the tailgate wire harness. We have the fuse harness, as well as the T-harness, which is what makes this whole thing completely plug and play, which is nice. We have the body wire harness. Now, depending on the length of your Tacoma, short bed or long bed, I think this will vary in length. And then we also have a bolt and a couple of grommets. In terms of the tools I'll be using, I have my Makita gun with a 10mm socket as well as a ratchet. I have a Phillips head screwdriver as well as a couple of different lengths for flathead screwdrivers. I have a T30 Torx bit and a 10mm wrench. So along the rim of the tailgate, there are 16 screws that we're gonna need to remove, and I'm gonna do that by using my T30 Torx bit. Just note that all of these aren't the same size, so you want to keep track of which screws go where. As you can see, I'm going to be using one of my decked cross boxes to keep everything organized so I can put it back where it is easily when we're done. Next, we're going to be removing this 10mm bolt. And then we're going to take our power locking assembly and put it underneath the rod, making sure to line up where this silver hole is right here to where we just took that 10mm bolt out. Now we're going to use the provided longer 10mm bolt to replace the old 10mm bolt. Now we're going to remove some of the plastic grommets that are holding the wiring harness in place. I'm going to use a flathead screwdriver, but you can also use a plastic pry tool. Now you don't have to worry too much about breaking these because we are going to be replacing them with the ones that Pop and Lock provided. Now we're going to plug in the female wire side of our lock into our tailgate wiring harness. And I'm going to feed this wire through that hole right there. The difference between these new grommets and the old ones are that, as you can see, there is an extra hole for this wiring harness now to feed through, so we're going to replace those. So now we're underneath the truck and you can see where our tailgate wiring harness came out. We're going to take our longer wiring harness, plug it into the tailgate wiring harness, and we're going to run this long wire all around the driver's side because that's where a lot of the other wires run to. So I just finished kind of mounting my long wiring harness with zip ties around this main big wiring harness and the frame. So I started here. You can see I haven't cut the zip ties quite yet, but it goes up here and then behind the frame. One of the slightly more tricky parts was fitting it behind the gas tank, but I still managed to do it. The wires came out here, get routed here, and then it's slightly hard to see, but the wire gets fed into a rubber grommet that feeds into the cab. And then from underneath the truck, the wire fed through up on the driver's side over here, slightly underneath the carpet. Now I was able to lift the carpet and kind of access this by pulling off this panel. You basically just have to pull under and then pop off. It comes off pretty easily. And then I also took off this panel because we're gonna need to access a wiring harness back here, but I'm gonna show you guys that in a little bit. But pretty much I was just left with this slightly long wire. I'm gonna show you guys how to finish wiring up and how to tuck it away. So this is our long wiring harness that we just fed through, and then we have two more wiring harnesses left, one with fuses on it, and then our T-shaped one. So we're gonna start with our one with fuses on it, and then we're gonna connect our wiring harness with a fuse to the T-shaped wiring harness. So now in terms of wiring this pop and lock actually into the truck, we are going to have to unplug one of the wiring harnesses back here. Now I know it looks super busy, but I'm gonna do my best to point out which exact one you need to remove. So what you're gonna look for is the 10-pin connector, and in my case, that is exactly right here. So this is what it looks like, and it came out of this female end over here. The last two connections on the pop and lock we have are the T harness, so it's pretty self-explanatory, but what we're gonna do is take the harness that we just unplugged from the Tacoma back here. We're gonna plug it into the pop and lock wiring harness, making sure it clicks. And then we're gonna plug the other end of the T wiring harness into the same female spot that we just took the original wiring harness out of. So now I know the wiring is not quite neatened up yet, but everything is wired in place. So what we can do is we can put, just for right now, before we actually tuck everything away in, close the doors. And I actually want to test that our pop and lock system actually works before we zip tie all of our wires and close everything back up back there. So I have my Tacoma key fob right here, and also shout out to the keychain guy for making me this awesome titanium TRD keychain for my keys. I love the way it looks. But now the truck is unlocked, so we are going to lock it. You can see the pop and lock did a little move over there and actually locked the tailgate for us. So if I hit unlock, and now we can basically tell that all our wiring is good and we just need to neaten everything up. So as you can tell from our long wiring harness, we have quite a bit of wire left, which is not a bad thing, but it means we're gonna have to zip tie it and kind of tuck it away. So I think I'm gonna do that over there and kind of keep the wires minimal across this panel over here. So I'm just gonna do my best to kind of tuck them. I am gonna put this panel back on, and it's really simple to do. So So I just use one zip tie to kind of loom everything together without making things too tight. And it seems like everything is held in place pretty well. So now I'm just gonna put the panel back on. The last thing I want to do back in the tailgate is secure down this wiring harness. As you can see, there's quite a bit of slack. I don't really want it loose because I might hear it in the tailgate, and I think it's just good if I tie it down. So I'm just going to zip tie it to this bracket over here. And it's not a perfect solution, but I think it's good enough for me. Now the very last thing we're going to do is put our tailgate cover back on. So I wanted to give you guys more specific details about the pop and lock and also let you guys know why I specifically chose the pop and lock kit. Now, given that these Tacomas from the factory come with a tailgate that can only be locked and unlocked with a manual key, at least for now, there are a lot of kits that accomplish this remote locking and unlocking of the tailgate, and there's even a genuine Toyota part or genuine Toyota kit, so there's just a lot to consider. Now, I specifically went with the pop and lock for a couple of different reasons. I've been doing a lot of research on them the last couple of months when thinking about how to solve this remote locking tailgate issue, and what I found is that they're kind of the major brand that specializes in this type of thing, not just for Tacomas but for other trucks as well. I'm sure you can imagine that the Tacoma isn't the only truck that locks with a manual key from the factory. The pop and lock has been around for quite some time, solving this problem for all sorts of trucks, including the Tacoma, of course. They're reputable, and I actually have a couple of friends who have the pop and lock on their Tacomas. They've been running it for the last couple of years and they've had no issues whatsoever. That, and actually there are Toyota dealerships out there that will install the exact same kit, the pop and lock branded kit, when you ask to get a remote locking tailgate system installed on your Tacoma or Tundra. I have heard from these dealerships that they like using the pop and lock kit because in the long run they usually have less trouble with them compared to the genuine Toyota parts. So that, combined with a couple people I know who have ran the pop and lock for a couple years, was enough credible information for me to decide to go with pop and lock. One of the big things I love about my pop and lock is, again, you can still use your manual key just like you did before. So if for some reason the pop and lock ends up failing, or one of the wires for some reason comes loose, your tailgate is the exact same as it was before. Now for me personally, having a remote locking tailgate is great for a couple of reasons. The convenience of already having your tailgate unlocked when you get out of your truck is just really, really nice. You don't have to pull out that manual key. And on top of that, the reassurance of having your tailgate locked when you walk away from your truck and lock it, of course, is also just really nice. I've said this before in a few of my other videos, but unfortunately, leaving your tailgate unlocked makes it really easy to steal on the Tacomas. And to make things worse, these tailgates are really expensive to replace. So having this system gives you a better chance of locking your tailgate, protecting the tailgate itself, and protecting your valuables. In my case, the recovery gear I store in my deck system. Other reasons I love the pop and lock is that it's relatively inexpensive for what it does. I see it run online for about $125 to $150, which isn't too bad considering what you get out of it. It's also pretty easy to install with minimal tools, as you saw in the video, and it only took me an hour to install the whole thing from start to finish, and that was with filming this video, so I'm sure you could get it done even faster than that. So those are the reasons why I went with a pop and lock, but I definitely want to know what you guys think in the comments section down below about the pop and lock, or in general having a remote locking tailgate kit. I personally think it's one of the best value mods you can get for your truck, and I'll have a link in the description down below to where I got mine if you're interested in getting one for your Tacoma. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video and checking out today's mod. If you want to connect more with me, I have an Instagram. It is at ChloeKuoTaco, and I post more content on that. Otherwise, I hope I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys!